There is our correspondent, Parrock. Good afternoon. Nice to chat to you once again. Right now, what is the mood and the situation like in Paris?
Well, it's a calm mood, to be honest. There's a real element of fear here. After we saw the Charlie Hebdo attacks back in January, there was a defiance and people took to the streets. And there have been some gatherings, but the police and security forces have warned that people shouldn't gather in large groups. They've closed the major tourist attractions like the Eiffel Tower, for instance. So there's a somber mood. I've been in another district of Paris, in fact, where there was, which is kind of a much more suburban area. And there was a bit of a hustle and bustle around the shops on a Sunday, people picking up their bread and coffees, but there's certainly no excitement or kind of happiness to be seen around, as you often would see in Paris, which is obviously one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
We understand that the way church services that were earlier planned for the victims of the attacks, are they being held at the moment?
Yeah, there's six services have been held indeed. Churches across Paris have been holding services to try and remember the 129 people who've died. There are still many others in critical conditions. So there's obviously prayers and thoughts going out to those people who remain fighting for their lives following the attacks. And there's also been in the city districts and areas that have been most affected by these attacks, the town halls have set up books where people can go and sign and send their regards and write their feelings about what's happened, so that people have a place where they can outpour and collect to discuss how they're feeling about these extremely violent and brutal attacks that have torn right through the heart of the city of Paris.
And we are seeing pictures right now of people putting flowers and also lighting candles in memory of those who died. Is that still continuing? And what are people just saying about the way forward from here?
Indeed, so ever since the first kind of hours of the attack happening, once it kind of calmed down and the attackers had been killed by security forces or detonated themselves with their suicide belts, people began laying tributes, flowers and candles, and that's continued at all of the main sites, the 6 sites where the terrorist attacks happened, but also in Place de la République, which is a very significant square in the centre of Paris, which was kind of in the heart of where the attacks happened, kind of central to all 6. People have been collecting there and discussing what can the country do, what can the security forces do, how can society get back from this, and should more have been done, in fact, to prevent these attacks. We now know the identities of, well, we're getting details about some of the identities of some of these people who were the perpetrators of the attacks, and it seems that many of them were marked out as potentially radicalized persons by the security forces. So there will be some tough questions to answer for the French government and the French security forces.
And can we expect some more arrests anytime soon as investigations continue?
I suppose we probably can expect some more arrests, but that will be we'll have to wait and see how the investigations go of the French police. And also there's a strong link now back to Belgium. The area of Molenbeek in Brussels, which is known for being an incredibly difficult area, has been linked to these attacks, to the Charlie Hebdo attacks back in January, and also to the attack on the Jewish Museum in Brussels. So there's many questions around Europe being asked about whether that is a incubation site for extremist ideology and radicalization. So there's a lot of questions being asked there. The Belgian Interior Minister said he would make it his job to clear up that area of Brussels. But this is all in the immediate aftermath of the dreadful attacks on Friday that killed those 129 people. So what concretely happens to try and tackle radicalization in Europe is obviously going to take a bit longer than just the 48 hours or so that we've had since the attacks.
And Jack, very quickly, is there any real danger that these attacks we saw on Friday will polarize communities, not just in France, but in Europe?
there's a very, very real danger indeed. The French society has been relatively divided, especially with regards to Islam, since the Charlie Hebdo attacks. And there are segregations and divisions in Europe, especially with the flows of refugees and migrants arriving at European borders from countries like Serbia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and across Africa. And it's hard to tell what effects it will have on the society. But as far as the refugee flows go, there's been many observers trying to point out that many of the refugees are trying to flee the violence of the Islamic State and not head to Europe to proliferate the Islamic State ideologies. So there will be many efforts to try to keep that polarization between the kind of people of Europe and new arrivals and Muslims across the EU and France from being polarized.
All right, thank you so much. That was our correspondent there, Jack Parrock.